Jerry Mallory here, SBNationPrideDetroit.com. What a crazy week it's been, and we're only at Tuesday for our Detroit Lions. There's been a lot going on. Lions, as a Lions fan, it's just been a crazy week. First off, you have the win against Washington. That's been cool. For me personally, I'm now sick as a dog. I'm wearing a Mr. Rogers sweater, and lo and behold, Nate Burleson broke his arm trying to grab some pizza. Jason Jones out for the year. It's been crazy. We're here to talk about some potential replacements for Nate Burleson. Make no mistakes about it, the Lions are actively pursuing someone that can fill in that wide receiver spot. They want to strip their wide receiver corps even before Burleson was injured. Mind you, with a healthy Burleson, with Broyle still on the mend but potentially coming back, they tried to sign one Darius Hayward-Bay. But Mr. Darius decided to go with Andrew Luck and the Colts. So now even more so, do the Lions need to find a replacement? So we're going to give you some options, some guys to look at. A few quick notes about the Washington game. First and foremost, the win, that's cool. But, man, Mike Shanahan, he's getting redder and redder by the second. He was born to be a Redskin. He was a Redskin even when he was a Denver Bronco. His skin pigmentation is of such a rosy nature that I tried to fix my TV several times thinking my contrast was off, but no, it was him. Horrible officiating, hitting a defenseless receiver. If the guy has the ball, if you're hitting him head on, the call is ridiculous. Calvin Johnson rule, though, in our favor. All in all, a big game, and I'm proud of Matthew Stafford. That's just been my word that I've been using to describe him. I'm proud because he's looking more mature, he's making good decisions, and he's finding ways to win. And props to Ezekiel Ansah, who thus far has been proving me wrong. Let's go take a look at a video talking about some potential replacements now, because the big news, Nate Burleson being out, we got to find a way to fill that void, that vacancy. Here are a few names, some you've heard of, and maybe a couple of names that you have not yet considered. Maybe the Lions will be able to look in-house to find their replacement for Nate Burleson. Let's face it, it's not going to be easy. He had some good production so far. But what are some of their options on the current roster? Well, keep in mind the practice squad. You have Corey Fuller. He looked ill-prepared to be in the NFL just yet. I don't think anything has changed in the last few weeks that makes him ready to suit up for the real roster, the actual team. When we talk about the actual lineup, the guys that are on the 53-man roster, Ryan Broyles, it's time for him to take an added role. Hopefully his knee holds up. With more health, he can fill in that slot role quite good. Then there are targets. Does not necessarily have to be a wide receiver. As you know, Reggie Bush has the ability to line up. He can play as a receiver, which is pretty good for him. And with the emergence of Joique Bell, he's emerging into a very good running back. You want them two on the field as much as possible. So there are occasions where Reggie Bush will line up as receiver. I will warn you, though, some of the big plays we've seen from him catching the ball is as a running back, which means in most cases it was a linebacker checking him. With a cornerback lined up against him in certain areas, he may see a drop in production. And then, of course, we have Joseph Faria, everyone's favorite tight end, the rookie. He should get more targets now that Nate Burleson isn't there. As you know, Burley Worley had a team-high 19 catches thus far. Now, if the trade market is going to open up, which we think it has, teams will be vying to make some improvements. We have a few things to dangle. Number one, you have draft picks. The Lions have already showed they are willing to make a big trade. They've showed they've been willing to make intermediate trade, like the one they did for Mike Thomas last year. That didn't quite work out. They also have a running back, second-round talent, still very young, lots of potential. They say they're still committed to Mikel LeSure, but what do you need more now? A number 2/number 3 wide receiver, or a number 3, and some may argue number 4 running back, and Mikel LeSure. So no doubt, a team that's in need of a running back may very well be a good suitor for that team and the Lions. We've already talked about Josh Gordon. He'd be a perfect fit. There's off-the-field issues, but he fits the speed, size combo, similar to what we were trying to get when we attempted to sign Darius Hayward-Bay. We get that in the version of Josh Gordon, but in an elevated level, in my opinion, than that of Hayward-Bay. So he is definitely an option. There are some disgruntled wide receivers around the league. You have Hakeem Nicks, just one game, but with the Giants kind of faltering, they're now looking more and more likely like they're not going to make the playoffs in just the first 3 games. He was upset about the targets that he got, the lack thereof. He may be available. Contract situations with him may be something to watch. And then Kenny Britt, this is his last year. in Tennessee. Maybe it was his last few games if the Lions come knocking. But then there's one guy that I want to talk about is Justin Blackmon. Now, if you're the Jaguars, you don't have a lot of key pieces. He's young, he's talented, he's had off-the-field issues, so they don't necessarily want to get rid of him. But what if they decide to go in Cleveland Brown mode? Maybe if they want to go ahead and get Jadeveon Clowney. Maybe they want to go ahead and get Teddy Bridgewater. So what do? They start to tank, and they dangle their most highly touted young piece on offense in Justin Blackmon. Now, he probably cost you a first rounder, maybe a second. But if you want to go that route, you're bringing in a guy that has tons of potential. And as a number 2, he'd be one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league. We're going to talk about free agents. You see the picture I have up, so you know where I'm already going. Before we get into him, you know there's Matt Willis still available. Had a really good preseason for the Detroit Lions. Familiar with the team, familiar with the system. Also, you have Laurent Robinson available. Brandon Lloyd, Detroit's own Braylon Edwards. Mohamed Massaquoi played with Matt Stafford at Georgia. And yes, as you see with the picture, formerly known as Ocho Cinco, is Chad Johnson. He had a brief visit Lions training camp. Are they interested in him? I don't know. He certainly wants to be back on the NFL team. I think the reason he isn't, he has had a drop in production. As last year with the Patriots, he didn't do much. But the biggest reason, I think, is off-the-field things. We know the incident with his former wife. He's been known to be a diva, and now a diva plus declining skill set means you don't have a home. Insert Terrell Owens joke here. I think Chad Johnson, though, can still provide something for a team. Physically, he seems to be in shape. As a number 2, playing similar role as Nate Burleson, I think he could be effective on this team. I don't think it's going to happen, but he's another name to look out. And for a bonus, we'll give you 2 guys we may be signing in the offseason. We're going to still probably have to address the wide receiver spot depending on what we do. And those 2 guys are the aforementioned Kenny Britt, but also Jeremy Maclin. He's coming off an injured season. He's done for the year. His stock will be low. You may be able to get him at a very good price. And remember, Mayhew and company wanted to draft him the year they got Matt Stafford, but the Philadelphia Eagles picked him up, 1 pick before ours, and we wound up with, yes, your and my favorite tight end,
Brandon Pettigrew.
Yep, I went there. Chad, the artist formerly known as Ocho Cinco Johnson, as a potential Detroit Lion. Many of you would disagree with that. Some of you will agree. What are your thoughts, opinions? Who do you want to see brought in? How do you want to see this team shift and change? We're losing one of our bigger weapons, but we've been there before, and this team is now in a hunt for first place. Going against the Chicago Bears this week. It's no time to sit here, lick our wounds, and cry about the players that aren't here. It's time for the players that are available to get good, to get better, to fill in the void, and hopefully Mayhew, Schwartz, Lewan, and company bring in a good replacement. That's going to do it. We'll be back later on this week. We'll be talking about the huge matchup, Ford Field, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears. I'm going to go get some lovely tea prepared by Miss Jerry Mallory, and I'll go ahead and maybe bundle up in a Snuggie and get well soon. All right, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell all your friends about us. We got a good thing going. As always, this has been Jerry Mallory for SB Nation and PrivateDetroit.com.